All of Penn State's national champions will return for the upcoming season, but how will the rest of their lineup shape their chances at a national trophy? Let's stop stalling and start talking wrestling. What's going on, wrestling fans? My name's Josiah, and welcome to Fanco Wrestling, your source for wrestling news and discussion. And today we're talking about Penn State 2022. As I already said at the top of the show, Penn State has 4 national champions returning to the lineup, and actually 5 national finals. So I'll get to who that other finalist is in just a second. But there's actually a lot of change going on with Penn State's lineup from last season. Unlike Iowa, who we pretty much know is set from top to bottom, from 125 all the way to heavyweight, there are a few different changes and some shifts and some guys that transferred out and some guys transferring in that shift and change their lineup. So let's look at who exactly is going to be set in Penn State's lineup next year. Of course, their national champions, Roman Bravo Young, Nick Lee, Carter Sirachi, and Aaron Brooks. Each of these guys is returning to the lineup and is going to do a tremendous job this upcoming season. I mean, none of them are set in stone for complete national champions. Unlike I would say 125 is set for Spencer Lee. But the rest of these, I mean, they each had battles in the national tournament all the way up into the finals. So they will have their work cut out for them. But the other national finalist who is coming to Penn State this year, transferred in, is Max Steen. Max Steen, if you don't know, was a national finalist a couple of years ago when he was wrestling at Cornell. Now, his brother announced, Gabe Dean actually announced on Chael Sonnen's podcast that his brother Max will be training and wrestling for the Nittany Lions in the upcoming season. Now, he was a national finalist at 184 pounds and not 197 pounds. It looks like he's going to shift up to 197 pounds, put on some weight, and I mean, if you've seen Max Dean anytime recently, you know that shouldn't be a problem. But I actually did a whole video breakdown on where Max Steen exactly fits into the lineup. So if you want to check that out, I break that down in more detail. But the one guy I want to mention here is Michael Beard. People seem to be forgetting that Michael Beard was an All-American last year. He got on the stand last year in his first year wrestling at the national championships. So there are going to be some tough battles ahead for Max Steen and Michael Beard. And this is really one of the first could be a big change up for Penn State. Of course, Kirkley is the other and last remaining All-American out of these guys that will be returning to the lineup at 285 pounds. Hopefully the injuries and things won't be plaguing Kirkley as much for this upcoming season. Now, I'll get to 149 in just a second because that's kind of been the crazy weight. It used to be 125 for Penn State was kind of the crazy weight, like what's going to happen there. 149 is just, I mean, there's just so much that could go on there. But first, let's talk about the Triple Lee threat. Nick Lee, of course, national champion. But then brothers Matt Lee and Joe Lee at 57 and 65 are each coming to the lineup. Joe Lee returning and Matt Lee looking to make a start as a young guy at 157 pounds. So what happened to Bergie? Bergie, unfortunately, is out. He is out for, it seems like his wrestling career is over considering all of the concussions that he's had. You saw him at the national tournament. I mean, he just seemed devastated. Wasn't able to finish the tournament. Had to injury default out. And so that's why he's no longer at 57. We're going to see Matt Lee jump in here. At 125, the weight that I said is usually the crazy one, is Robbie Howard or Gary Steen. So it's rumored right now that Steen could get the start, but Robbie Howard was the national qualifier for Penn State this year, and he had a huge national tournament. I mean, no, he didn't get on the stand. He did not place, and this is a weight where Penn State is obviously looking to get a placer, and what was kind of a fun fact is that Howard was the first Penn Stater at 125 pounds to get a win at the national tournament since, I believe it was Nico Megaludis, because of just the weight that's kind of been played over the last couple of years with Soriano being out, transferring out, a couple other things. It's kind of been like a cursed weight, but Howard broke the curse. And Gary Steen coming in here as a multiple-time state champion, a top-ranked recruit, I think could also do a great job for Penn State at 25. It's rumored that, maybe he's at 25 or 33, but he's not going to be beaten out on Roman Bravo Young. So look for either of these guys to start here, and we'll see kind of what happens with each of those guys. At 149, this is the big one. This is the big one that I just have to talk about because this is the biggest change potentially for Penn State. So let's talk about two of the things that have happened in the offseason. So the first thing is that Jared Verkleeren transferred out. He decided right at the end of the season, I believe it was right around the times of the national championships, probably when he found out that he wasn't going to be wrestling, is when he started looking around, entered the transfer portal, and he is now going to be wrestling at Virginia in the upcoming season, no longer a Penn Stater. The other guy who transferred out is Beau Pifer, and that is because Beau Bartlett ultimately got the start last year. This was the only weight that Penn State didn't qualify for the national championships. So it's a weight that Penn State is looking to improve on. And if they get a guy to the national championships, get a couple of wins, that will be big for their team points. But who else is here? The other guy here is, by some outlets, the top recruit of the last year, and that is Shane Van Ness. Van Ness will be a freshman. He will be a true freshman. And the thing, you want to talk about Penn State and true freshmen, let's look at some of these guys in the past couple of years. And I wouldn't even just say true freshmen, just freshmen, okay? Vincenzo Joseph comes out as a freshman, wins a national title. Mark Hall pulls his red shirt, comes out, wins a national title. I called that this the same thing was probably going to happen with Carter Sirachi this past year. It happened. Aaron Brooks winning as a freshman. Of course, I guess he won the Big Ten championships and could have had a great NCAA championships in 2020. But Penn State and freshmen, some things just seem to work out. Okay, you're saying, okay, well, Kirkley and Beard didn't win a national title. Okay, it doesn't work out every way. But it's something that I do have to mention. Van Ness, as a top recruit, is somebody to be watching at 149 pounds. He is the guy who this is what I imagine is going to happen for Penn State. Bartlett's going to get the start. Van Ness is going to wrestle, the beginning of the season as a redshirt. Probably going to be wrestling a couple tournaments, some opens, things like that. And then he is ultimately going to get the start. But what about their national title points? So a lot of these Penn Staters returning for next year, it's great that we have all these national champions who are going to be coming in ranked number 1. They're going to be looking to have massive points scored at the national championships. But some of the changes here, just could add to their point totals. Adding in if Howard gets a couple more wins on the big stage, that's extra points. If Matt Lee and Joe Lee make it to the national tournament and score some points, that's extra points for Penn State. And then Max Dean, I think that's one of the things that even if he can score more points, but ultimately Beard did a great job for the Nittany Lions this past year. So where do I project Penn State to score right now? I'm looking for them to score about 132 points, or give or take, some points there. About their average points is where I project them to be, which is right around a national title contending team. So what do you think? How do you expect Penn State to do this upcoming season? Where do you see their freshmen going? Do you see Steen and Van Ness starting, or do you just think that's not in the cards for Penn State?